We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
All right, we are live. Are you there? Welcome to the show. You're listening to Star Seed Radio. You are tuned in to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt, and today is Friday, a beautiful Friday, November 20th, 2015. I am your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octorian Starseed. We have a great show lined up for you today. But first, before we get started, we want to give a shout out to the Starseed Summit happening this Saturday. Tomorrow, the Starseed Summit is brought to you by Portal to Ascension. Please check out portaltoascension.org for more information. This is going to be hosted by myself, as well as we have some amazing panelists, Dr. Dream, Laura Eisenhower, Julia Cannon, Dolores Cannon's daughter, Gordon Davidson, and Michael Tellinger, talking about star family, extraterrestrial incarnations, planetary ascension, and more. That will be from 10 to 6 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Check out portaltoascension.org. It's going to be an amazing event. Hope everybody can tune in for that. As well as, please check out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. We're always posting up new articles as well as space weather and different earth changes around the planet to pay attention to. And always we have Ryan Dernick's feed up there as well. He's always posting up new articles to stay aware of and pay attention to. As well as please check out starseedtechnologies.com. That's our other site that has information on free energy. If you fill out that form, we could send you some free energy information, as well as we could send you a free piece of elite shungite if you haven't gotten it already. Please fill out the form at starseedtechnologies.com. Or you can call our toll-free number anytime, 24/7, at toll-free 888-400-2328. Again, that's 888-400-2328. And you can call anytime if someone does not pick up, if it's 4 in the morning or whatever. Just leave us a voicemail. Someone will get back to you as soon as they can. And the last website we like to go over and to promote, because this is a very exciting new system. It's a global bartering system and exchange system backed by gold. Please check out starseedgold.com. You could always email me direct if you have any questions. We would love to speak with you about that. Start turning your fiat currency, your paper currency, into real gold at starseedgold.com. Fill out the information, watch the video, contact me, Jonah Bolt, at Gmail if you have any questions with that. All right, we're going to get started with the show. We have a very special show on Fridays where we bring Joel Anastasia and Phillip Collins from the Angel News Network for a 5D higher perspective. But before we jump into that segment, we're going to start off with our daily quote. Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. That quote by Maya Angelou. Could agree with that more, Maya. Thank you for that. We're now going to be joined by the Angel News Network, and just so you have a little perspective on what happens on the Friday segment, which is Divine Discussions, news from a 5D perspective, is Phillip Collins opens up to and channels the higher masters, and Joel is here to sort of guide him and narrate through the questions to find out what is going on with some of the current events we've been talking about all week, and a higher perspective with that. So with that, I'll welcome the gentleman on, and then I'll talk about a few topics, and then I'll let Joel sort of take the stage. So with that, good morning, Phillip and Joel. How are you today?
Good, Jonah. Joel here, and Phillip.
Hi, this is Phillip.
Excellent. Good. So really what we've been focusing on, gentlemen, and we're going to go a full hour here because some of these topics are very important. Obviously, one of the big stories around the world right now is the Paris attacks, what's happened over there with ISIS and claiming attacks. And this is a much bigger story. We did a whole show on it this week about the radicalized, the really fanatical Muslim Islamic fundamentalists that are really sweeping the world in terms of wanting Sharia law and other things like that. There's 1.3 Muslims worldwide, and they estimate 15 to 25% are this radicalized Sharia law wanting type of Muslims. And we see this crisis in Europe happening where literally millions and millions of Muslims, not just from Syria, but from all different Muslim countries, Africa, are all invading basically without having permission in many areas, coming over the borders in Germany and France and Switzerland and Sweden and Prague, being flooded. And I've watched lots of videos. And a lot of people in the spiritual and New Age community haven't really brought this issue up. But this ideology of this Sharia law where, if you're not Christian or Muslim, or if you're gay, that they execute you. This is being forced in many countries in Europe right now, and it's estimated to be 150 to 330 million radicalized Muslims. So a question for me as we go into this is, how do we stop this ideology where they want to exterminate the West, exterminate people that aren't of the Sharia law? They want to have 5, 6 wives. It's okay to murder people. You go to heaven and there's 72 virgins waiting for you. This ideology is a very serious threat, not just to the European, which now in Europe, in UK, Germany, and many countries, they are the minority. Germans are a minority right now to Muslims. So it's literally a sort of a takeover of their way of life by sort of breeding, having 5, 6, 7 wives. And they're very open about this, about they're going to outbreed the Europeans and outbreed the Americans. So this is a big topic around the world. And I personally would like some definitely insight on how do we approach this? How do we stop this? Because these fanatics, hundreds of millions we're talking now, are invading our way of living. And if we want to build community and build sustainability and bring abundance and bring this light, how do we stop, I really believe, such evil? It's really evil, and I think the dark forces are behind that. In terms of the Sharia law, they have honor killings. If one of their daughters marries a Jewish or a Christian person, they kill them. And that's happened here in Florida. There's been honor killings where the father kills their daughter by strangling them for dating a Christian or dating outside the Muslim faith. So how do you stop something like that? It's very prevalent. It's a topic that's ignored, and that's really been a big focus this week, is the terrorist attacks, what's behind that, and how do we really approach and stop this type of ideology. So I'll leave the rest of the questions to you, Joel, and as Phillip goes into trance and brings in the higher realms and beings from that, we don't always know who's coming through. Sometimes we do. So with that, I will turn it over to the Angel News Network, gentlemen, and please take it away. Thank you both.
Okay, Jonah, one thing I will encourage you to, as you hear this dialogue, if you feel that you have a burning question that you want to ask, by all means do it. The other point I think it's really important for us to make before we begin this discussion is that Muslims are the biggest target of all this terrorism, and that's something that we need to remember. It isn't just the West. It's the intention to impose their kind of philosophy of who God is and who they are and what religion is all about, trying to impose that on everybody who disagrees with them. So Muslims have been the biggest target of this kind of terrorism.
Greetings, beloved humans. Being human,
upon planet Earth, we of the Galactic Federation come to you at this time in your vernacular with a higher realm perspective of what is really going on within the ascension process of your planet and you, humanity, upon the planet. Dear ones, let us remind you, you are within the throes, if you will, of an ascension process, moving from a denser reality to a higher frequency of existence. We would like to begin by laying a foundation that many of you are not aware of the origin of your species on this particular planet. As many of you are aware, this particular planet was seeded by 12 different star systems throughout the universe and various galaxies in order to create this divine experiment called the Loveversity of Earth. These forces came together in concert with higher civilizations which came later, dear ones. The creation of humanity upon this planet is also the result and the combination of you being created through the manipulation of advanced civilizations. This information is not commonly known within your vernacular and your history. Much of the duality, the separation, the confrontation, and the warring that you have existed for millennia on this planet and currently continue to experience is a result of that origin of your DNA being spliced, split, or shut down. You're in the process of uploading those frequencies that have been shut down in the past through your creation, which is a combination of advanced civilizations and a denser form of humanity which was already existing on the planet. Your scientists are in the process of beginning to put these pieces together. So much of the questions that you have about what is happening and why and how to stop it is impeded by not understanding the energetic process that's taking place through your origin, what you have gone through in your past recorded histories, which is only a small piece of the puzzle, and what you're experiencing now. These advanced civilizations controlled your planet, the resources upon the planet, and you who they created through a combination of their genes and your existing human genes. That force is still in play upon your planet. The few controlling the many. What you may call the Illuminati, what you might call the Cabal, what you might call evil, which is live in reverse. As an aspect of those forces still in place and the reactivation of your DNA and your RNA, you are experiencing what you are experiencing. There has been throughout your recorded history these forces, these hidden forces, the few controlling the many, constantly keeping you in duality and separation and confrontation and war in order for them to maintain control. Realizing, dear humans, that you cannot control what you did not completely create. They did not create the divine aspect of yourself or the divine aspect of the planet itself, so they cannot fully control it, even though they have attempted to do it through governments and religions, recently corporations. So as a result of this attempted control, this is what is happening in your world. There is a clearing and a cleansing, a transmuting of all of that coming up to be healed and released. What we ask you to become aware of at this time, if you so choose, through your freedom of choice and your freedom of will, is to understand the funding, the financial funding of these individuals that you call terrorists, which are creating your current events and your headlines. You might be surprised, some of you and others not, that the funding of these organizations also lie within your existing governments. There are forces now on the planet to begin to reveal exactly where these fundings and manipulations of fundings are taking place. In your vernacular, dear ones, follow the money.
You also now begin, as a result of current events and these atrocities that are taking place, you're having a united field of consciousness taking place as a result of this, sort of a learning tool, if you will. There are forces now coming together, private and public, to begin to stop the cyberspace communication of these forces, which are being funded by these hidden forces of which we speak. Once you're able to accept and understand and know as truth exactly what's happening, who is perpetuating it, and how they're perpetuating it, you as a species within your ascension process can make a decision to change or not. But the change will be predicated upon you knowing the truth of exactly what is happening and who is attempting to be in control. It is a pattern of behavior, as we have previously said, that's been going on for millennia within the history of humanity, as humanity was originally created and manipulated from the beginning. You're continuing that. But a part of your divine soul plan as a species is to heal and release that. That your spiritual DNAs and your spiritual chakras will be rebooted, reactivated, and advanced, and allowing you to evolve and continue to evolve in your divine aspect, which is to move into a higher state of vibration and frequency. The behavior on your planet by these hidden forces has kept your vibration and your frequency at a lower state of consciousness, which has allowed them to maintain a herd consciousness and to continue to attempt to control you. Only through raising your frequency, your vibration through consciousness, can you begin to shift and know the truth. For only knowing the truth and being in a higher vibrational capacity can you actually evolve and transcend and mutate into a higher frequency of existence, another dimension. Moving from your 3D dimension of your emotions, your thoughts, and your bodies, beyond your astral or psychic phenomena 3D, into the 5D, and for many of you, beyond. Within the 5D, as you know, there is no time and space. There is only now. There is none of the density that you are experiencing at this time. We of the Galactic Federation have observed these processes on many planets and many solar systems within this galaxy alone, dear one. We will not burden you with all the names and the events that took place, but allow us to say, suffice for us to say, it is not unique what is taking place. As we've explained to you in the past, as you look up into the night sky and you see what you call stars or suns, those bodies of light went through an evolutionary process, an ascension process, if you will, not unlike your own. While your process is unique to this particular planet, being seeded by 12 different star systems, it has its own unique divine plan. But the destination is the same, dear ones. That destination is to be in service of creation. Realize that you are the creator creating. But that process has been impeded by your origin and by the continuation of certain elements from your origin still being in control. This is the foundation, the cause and effect, if you will, that is missing in your understanding of exactly what is taking place. So what we would like to do at this time is for you to begin to ask some questions for an integration of what you see is going on. It's not a matter of stopping what is going on, because if you attempt to stop it through fighting it or resisting it, what you resist will persist. You can't actually stop it by resisting it. That will perpetuate it. War simply doesn't work. That is a form of resistance. But to understand exactly what is causing the cause and effect of this behavior. Most of the people are being, as you called, radicalized, are people who have no hope. They have not been assimilated into cultures throughout the world. They sense and feel they have nothing to lose. They're involved in a technique of beheading people who they feel are different from themselves, which is separating your mind from your heart. We want you to begin to see these beheadings in a different way, dear ones. As grotesque as they may appear, the act actually has an energetic foundation. Your species is in the process of having your mental believing body, which is filled with erroneous belief systems, your minds, to move into the servicing of your heart, learning to think with your heart. Your heart already contains within its DNA all of the information that we are imparting at this time. What we're in the process of teaching you is the ability to access that information through your resonance, how you feel about it, and your discernment, how you think about it. That will allow you to accept with compassion, thus forgive, how you are choosing to learn. All of this is a learning process of this love-aversity of learning to love, which is the mission and the purpose of this particular planet we call Earth. Once you understand that everything that you're experiencing is founded upon the building block of love and light, you will understand not experiencing love through fear or whatever other emotion, which is the absence of love, is really also a process of learning the truth. Love equals hate. Hate equals love. Light equals dark. Dark equals light. Problem equals solution. Solution equals problem. Male equals female. Female equals male. All of these aspects of the same thing are simply how you have chosen to learn in your humanity. And you might want to ask yourself, how and why is this taking place? It's taking place because it's how your souls have decided you need to learn. Throughout past golden ages, and you have had 6 previous ones, be they Lemurian, Egypt, Greece, Aztec, Mayan, Hopi, whatever, you were connected to the higher realms such as we to build these advanced civilizations. Through the disconnect to the higher realms, such as we and many others, you lost those civilizations. As many of you know, you are in the process of building a final golden age, which will necessitate a permanent connection to we of the higher realms. We are the Galactic Federation. We work in contact with the Archangelic, the star realms that seeded you, the inner Earth civilizations, and also, of course, the stars that seeded this particular planet. We have various councils throughout this galaxy assisting and supporting you. We are not allowed to interfere with your freedom of choice and freedom of will. You might ask, why don't you come in and just fix it? Then we would be interrupting the way you need to learn, to permanently learn what you need to learn, to advance as a species in order to be in service to self, thus others, thus world service, and beyond, dear ones. So enough of our chatter, as you might say at this time. Let's begin to dialogue, as you are saying, and have a divine discussion and see if you can further integrate the information that we're wishing to share at this time. How may we help you, dear ones?
Well, thank you for that introduction. You said a lot. We'll try to unravel this as we talk. We're going to be together for the next 45 minutes or so. You said a number of things that grabbed my attention. Number one, you seem to be implying that a lot of the chaos and terror and activities in the Middle East are a reflection of the controlling of the few. Is that correct? And could you expand a little bit about that?
Yes, that particular location, what you call the Middle East, has a great deal to do with the origin of your species and the manipulation of your species in the beginning of humanity as you have known it being on the planet. That disturbance of energy with all those portals and vortices has been disturbed for millennia. It still is. There's a constant state of conflict there, which in the past has attempted to be controlled by maniacal governments, but it never quite shut down the energetic imbalance of those particularly geographical locations. Does that help you, dear wife?
Well, it does. Could you define who or what the controlling few are doing to precipitate all this activity going on in the Middle East?
Creating conflict, creating events that keep you in conflict. Whether it's World War II, World War III, 9/11, bombing a European capital, whatever it takes to keep you in conflict and separation from one another, which is their mission. What we counsel you to do, if you so choose, through your freedom of choice, freedom of will, is to see this as a unifying technique, an opportunity for the planet to come together, dear ones, not to separate, not to turn upon one another, but to do the opposite of what those powers, those hidden powers, intend. Does that help you?
Are a lot of these are most of these forces of control coming from outside of the Middle East, or are they the Middle Eastern leaders themselves?
They have no national boundaries. They have no governmental boundaries. They have no monetary boundaries. It is a small elite that works worldwide. They locate themselves and stimulate others and turn others against one another where they deem it necessary, by creating events and activities within the name of religion, within the name of who's right, who's wrong, who's in control, and the name of God, and the name of a government law, in whatever way they can continue to manipulate humanity. It is time for humanity as a species, if you so choose, to begin to see the manipulation, to begin to see the genie behind the curtain, to lift the curtain and begin to see exactly what is taking place and why. Now, that does not mean that those who have been radicalized should not attempt to be stopped in their behavior. But it can mean, if you so choose, not to include all of a similar caliber of human being within that capacity of what you call terrorism. As you have stated, dear one, earlier, it is aspects in this particular religion itself, the individuals within that particular religion itself are being victimized as well. We would also
Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, Tuesday and Thursday on Truth Frequency Radio.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
Jedi Master? Yoda. You seek Yoda.
Yoda.
Clear your mind of questions. You must unlearn what you have learned. The Jedi's strength flows from the Force. That is the way of things. For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Its energy surrounds, and binds us. Luminous stream, Zoe. Not this true matter.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio, and we're joined by the News Network gentleman, Phillip, and also Joel Anastasia. Joel, I'll let you go right back into to questioning Phillip, who is currently in trance. Thank you.
Okay, we are talking to the Galactic Federation that has been trying to shed some light on the complexities of the horrors going on in the Middle East. And trying to sort it all out, of course, is needless to say very challenging because it's a very complex situation. A lot of factors are feeding into the separation we're seeing acting out here. As I've attempted to understand some of the forces at work here, two of the things that stood out for me was that in France particularly, because, of course, we had that incident in Paris this past week, that many of France's Muslims are really marginalized, and they've never been fully integrated into French society, and they live in the poor suburbs of Paris and other cities. They have limited access to jobs and education. But the other incendiary factor, it seems to me, is the fact that I've been reading about how so many of the educational material in many of the formal and informal education systems in the Middle East really teach separation and hate of Jewish and Christian religions. It was cited that in Iraq and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia, that many of the textbooks as early as second grade allude to all kinds of hateful things about alternative societies and religions.
Dear ones, what has happened in your Paris, in the middle of France, is small. It is small in comparison to what is taking place in other parts of the world that you do not deem of equal value. There are many atrocities taking place as a result of the top form of hate, which the basis of this is the relationship with self, which again factors the origin of the species, of the aspects, the divine aspects of yourself that have been shut down. Only through the activations of the reactivations of these divine aspects and understanding that process will you free yourselves from yourselves completely. We of the higher realms, in this particular case, the Galactic Federation, in council with the Archangelics, the Ascended Masters who were once humans upon your earth, the inner star civilization, the star seeds, the star realms that seeded your planet, have come together often throughout your histories and within the last 100 years, most often, to give you tools and messages to free yourselves from specifically what is taking place. There's a major transmuting and clearing and cleansing of the species, the human species, and the planet herself. As the planet raises her vibrational frequency, it will bring up past and present imbalances for clearing and cleansing. That is also part of what's happening with your species as well as the planet herself within geological activities. So understand the macro-micro relationship, if you can. Begin to put this into perspective as to what is happening and why. Does that help you?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of violence that we know nothing about, or when we do hear about it, we don't make it as important because it's not the Western cultures. I've often thought, and I've certainly read lots of commentary, for example, about the U.S. drones that are going into these various countries in Pakistan and Afghanistan and elsewhere, where they go in supposedly seeking out terrorists and the enemy, and they kill innocent people and whole families and large amounts of people. This is coming from the United States. That's violence, too. And I've often thought, what if Pakistan and Afghanistan were sending drones into our cities and killing civilians? How would we respond to that?
You would be in chaos and conflict, dear one. The key is to begin to understand what is behind the curtain, if you will, that is predicating and controlling this. And again, as we said in our opening statements, follow the money. If these activities really wanted to be stopped, do you not think as a species you have the ability to understand where the funding is coming from, dear ones? You have that ability. There are forces preventing you from stopping that funding and these particular activities. There are forces to stop their cyber communications that are funded by those monies, dear one. Stop and think about it, dear humans upon planet Earth. It takes money and funding for these activities to take place. Many of them are very sophisticated. So they're sophisticated individuals and beings behind these particular activities using these specific individuals as pawns on their chessboard, if you will. Most of the people involved in your terrorist activities have little or no understanding of that of which we speak. That at the top and behind the curtain of the activities they're involved in, there are forces controlling them for their own ends. But the major vehicle is separation and duality, leading to confrontation. You've had this for millennia on your planet. Your histories are foretold by various wars and events, and who was conquering who, and who was in control. That era of your beingness is coming to an end. The timeline on that type of duality and separation as a result of frequency and vibration of the planet herself raising is coming to an end. At your 2012, that began the final 2,000-year timeline of the tools that you're experiencing to learn from. The final hurdle that humanity will conquer, dear one, is physical death itself. If you sat most of the individuals down that are involved in these various activities and simply asked them, what do you need and why are you behaving the way you are? Many of them would not be able to answer beyond a pat, trained, taught religious form of dogma or doctrine. Does that help you, dear one?
Do our national leaders and the leaders in Congress, the president, the leaders in Congress, do they know who the powers are that are manipulating all this?
The majority of them do not. Many of them are in service to it with not knowing exactly who they are or where they're located. The heads of your governments, once they become in power through whatever processes, through your dictatorships or through what you call your democracies, come into place, at that time only, those individuals in key leadership positions worldwide are allowed to know who's really in control of the planet. The individuals who are in control may never actually be directly identified, but through various adversaries and messengers, those in leadership capacities will know it is not they who are in control. Those who are in control will attempt to give to those who are in leadership positions some form of the illusion of power. But at the end of the day, the bigger decisions, which have no national or religious or monetary boundaries, are, as you would say, calling the shots. Now, much of this falls within the conspiracy theories of most of the human mind. As long as the majority of humanity is not willing to accept or understand, without the drama wrapped around it, if you will, exactly what is taking place and why, things will continue on the path that they're continuing on. But you are reaching a quantum shift in consciousness where there are enough of you who are beginning to realize. In fact, within the last 10 days, there has been an energetic shift on your particular planet, where some private forces are coming together to begin to stop the monetary flow through, as you would say, hacking the ability of these terrorist activities. But in order to really eradicate the entire operation, you will need to identify that small group, that elite hidden group, that unseen aspect of humanity, and sometimes beyond humanity, that are in control. Remember, those that are in control are aspects of the advanced civilizations that began and origined the human species on this particular planet. That's where their power comes from. It represents itself in what you call royalty, and the thrones of the royals, which you had those periods within your Earth histories, which has largely come to an end now. Those who felt they were divinely led to lead the people. Those individuals were in direct contact with these advanced individuals who were in control, if you will, and giving the royals, if you will, the monarchies, if you will, the power to govern the people. But in reality, like your heads of state now, the monarchs, the royals were actually subjugated to these other hidden forces. Does that help you, dear one?
Well, you told us that this was a clearing and a cleansing and that it was an opportunity, but you also said that first we need to identify the small group in control. So that just seems to be the critical step, identifying the small group in control.
Yes, dear one. They work simultaneously together. You first have to know the truth of exactly what is taking place. And again, we ask you to follow the monetary pathways of where things are being funded and activities are being funded. How are they being funded? Who is funding them?
Now, you said something about a small group was beginning to create a shift, which was going to be affecting that kind of issue that you just mentioned about identifying the funding, et cetera?
Yes, you call yourselves the light workers and the way showers, dear one, do you not?
We do.
Through raising your consciousness and your awareness, you're shedding the light on the darkness. Now remember, dear ones, in your higher selves, you chose to learn this way. You do not need to be the victims and the slaves of this setup, if you will. It is simply a way that humanity has chosen to learn and transcend the way you have chosen to learn and transcend through it. If you can no longer see yourself as the victim, but you see yourself responsible and involved in what is taking place, you can begin to make another choice, make another decision through who leads your world or not.
Well, we certainly don't want to be victims, so we want to use this as an opportunity. So, and that's essentially what you're saying, isn't it? To use this as an opportunity to bring us all together?
That's what ascension is, dear ones. It is an opportunity which does not always avail itself to various planets. You've had various ascension opportunities in your history through certain advanced civilizations of the past, which you demised through your break of the higher realms that were assisting in maintaining and sustaining it. But since this is the last, final, seventh golden age of this particular planet, it is your destiny, if you so choose, to transcend these forces that have attempted to control you. Those of you who decide not to be of that choice will be given the opportunity to continue your ascension process elsewhere, in another solar system, within this galaxy or another galaxy. But those of you, and largely many who are hearing this particular message, who are choosing to be this consciousness now, will affect the change now. Does that help you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of the statements that we're hearing from the political elements in the United States. We're entering this period that's leading to the presidential election, and we're hearing a lot of Republicans talk about doing all kinds. We're responding with war and killing and restricting the flow of immigrants and taking their rights away, and all this kind of thing, which many people consider to be counterproductive. What would you say about an appropriate response to in order to bring us together and to really address the kinds of issues we're dealing with here, which are very complex and difficult? What would you recommend to be the appropriate political policies and responses?
Dear ones, those of which you speak are involved in dense theater. It is a performance. Many of them have not individually evolved enough to really be in a leadership capacity. They are simply expressing their wounds and the defenses of those wounds, and what would they do as a little wounded boy or girl. Some of them, through corporations and past governmental experiences, are connected to the hidden forces of which we speak, and will continue those relationships if they achieve, through what you call a democratic electoral process, a leadership capacity. Very few of them are evolved to a point of creating governments of the people, by the people, for the people. Most of them have hidden agendas to the forces of which we speak that they pay homage to. That is the sad state of affairs, if you will, of most of your governmental processes. You have not actually ever received or created a democratic culture on this, what you call these United States. The United States was divinely inspired by the star realms that seeded this planet and certain ascended masters such as Saint Germain to create documents, what you call your founding father papers, of all the truth of the universe to come together in one land. This has never actually been achieved, but it is the destiny of these United States to be a united field to lead this planet into a we unified field of consciousness. It is the destiny of the founding papers of what you call the United States to help lead the world to the balance of the masculine and feminine energy into a new world paradigm of we consciousness and oneness and service to one another and the world and the planet herself. All of these energetic codings, if you will, are within your founding father papers of this particular country, which they received from higher realms such as we. At the creation of these United States of America, the entire history of this particular planet was revisited. What worked, what didn't work, and what would support the ascension process of the planet and humanity in the future. And as a result of that, these documents were created. They have never been fully activated, as you would say, dear one. Does that help you?
So the United States is divinely inspired and created, and our destiny is to be a united field to bring together the world into we consciousness.
Yes.
Which would suggest some policies that would be appropriate here in dealing with this chaos that we're currently trying to deal with.
Remember, the chaos is a tool to separate you. Anytime there is an event, look beyond the immediate horror and drama of the event and see it can create one of two things. It can continue to separate you, which is the mission of those that created it, or you can choose it to unify you. So we ask you, dear humans, what do you choose? Your continued separation and confrontation and warring one another, or to move beyond that and to make another choice?
So in order to create the unity that you're talking about, what counsel would you offer our current government to kind of lead the world in terms of creating a consciousness of unity as we face these kinds of fearful and threatful situations?
Dear ones, it will not come from your government. It will come from you individuals. It will start with each one of you in your healed relationship with yourself. And through that relationship, create new leaders who have the passion and the desire to truly serve the people and bring that consciousness into a new governmental paradigm, a new world paradigm, moving from the old to the new, and allowing the old to be a learning tool into the new, not to resist it and allow it to persist, but to create a parallel path next to it, dear ones. That is another choice. Does that help you?
Well, it does, and it comes back to so many of the spiritual teachings that religious leaders like Jesus, for example, taught us about loving one another and being a brother's keeper and the idea of brotherhood, etc.
And who was this being, this Jesus? This was an individual who incarnated the Christ consciousness meaning the connection to your higher self and the higher realms such as we. It is not synonymous with any one particular religion. So this individual's divine soul plan was to incarnate this high-frequency Christ consciousness, I am presence energy, and bring teachings such as we are bringing into the world 2,000 years ago. He taught love one another. Do you see that taking place within your religions and your governments, or do you see more separation and duality and confrontation? Instead of seeing yourselves as diversified versions of the same thing, the Creator creating all the time, you've chosen to separate yourselves and continue to do so, and to radicalize, if you will, the foundation of oneness. Does that help you, dear one?
You know, I'm so aware that the Christian religion justified a lot of its violence during the Crusades, and alluded to Scripture to justify it. And the Muslims, some of the Muslims, the radical Muslims, are doing the same thing. They're able to go into their Scripture and justify all the violent and vicious acts that they commit. What would you say about the authenticity of the Scriptures that these religions are pointing to as those of the Word of God?
They're corrupted and manipulated. Many of your world religions have a foundation of spiritual truth at the bottom of them, at the foundation of them. But through the thoughts and emotions of mankind, largely the masculine energy, they have been corrupted in order to control the species. Your religions ended up being your first form of government. Your current governments are a reflection of your religions. So in your attempt to separate state and religion, you have found that impossible, because one, in effect, created the other, and they're actually aspects of the same thing, which is control. But, dear ones, you cannot control what you did not create. There is the folly of the human mind. There is the folly of these forces, these unseen forces, which attempt to think they are in control. Ultimately, that is in the process of coming to an end. How it ends, when it ends, and what type of suffering happens as a result in between is strictly up to the choices you make as a species, dear one. Does that help you?
Yeah, I mean, you made it very clear that it's our personal responsibility, and you used a reference to the fact that we have to individually raise our vibrations. What do you mean by that, and how do we do that?
You're all energy. You are manifested energy in an emotional and mental and physical body. So that energy has been manipulated in being human. You are given a certain supply of energy in each incarnational cycle. What you do with it and how you use it is up to you. Most of the energy stays rather dense within your emotions and your mental body and your physical body and being human for the majority of you. What we're talking about is transcending the emotional and mental and physical body into your higher self, your light body, if you will, and coordinating your beingness and your identity with that frequency and vibration. Once that takes place, you free yourself from what you call the third dimensional dense reality and move into a higher vibrational frequency state of existence, which frees yourself from the need of physical incarnational cycles, in effect eliminating what you call physical death. Does that help you?
So when we raise our vibration, we are reflecting more of the conditions of love and peace and joy and that kind of thing?
You are reflecting the building block of creation and the universe itself. You're connecting with the ability to manifest through the manipulation of the energy, through your free will, with no intention to harm. What your ascended masterships have done, once having been human themselves, is make that their priority, to elevate themselves to a higher frequency existence. So, through the use of manipulation of alchemy,
there's a public outcry for people who want a better planet, and there are powers that be that let the people panic. Look at the Gulf of Japan, could they have really planned it?